Hello and good morning, guys. Thank you guys for coming back to another Directors and Donuts episode. Yeah. We are here in Nashville Kitchen Studio with the Callie Blount. If you want to give us a quick little intro on your pizzazz.
Yes. Okay. Well, but I have to start first of all saying thank you. You guys, I am seriously still blown away that y'all are here. Like, I'm so honored that you're here to learn about food styling. Like, I personally am very passionate about food styling, but I'm so honored that other people would be. So thank you for your time and just wanting to learn. That just really is amazing. And then obviously thank you to Gear 7 because y'all are legit the most excellent production company. I mean, everything has been top notch this whole process. So thank you for having me.
It was such a hard decision. We were like, do we do it?
I did slip a few dollar bills under the desk, but thank you.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
So let's jump in real quick just with your background, and then we'll make it, make more sense when it comes to the actual job itself of food styling.
For sure.
So how did you fall in love with this?
Yes.
How did you find this is my career?
Right. Wild story.
Okay,
here we are. I like to say that in the beginning, I was setting things on fire. So we've really come a long way from that. When I was a journalism major in college, I was an art minor. So I always had this sort of interest in the visual arts, but also was convinced I was going to be the next Anna Wintour of Vogue, here we are world. But when I was in college, I actually applied for an internship at Southern Living in Birmingham because I grew up cooking and I just loved the kitchen and I just wanted to try it out. But they actually rejected me. They were like, sorry, you're rejected. So I pivoted and I went to work at a magazine called Flower Magazine, which was a magazine, all about flowers. And when I was there, we were working in the editor's pool house. So we were in this tiny, literally the pool's right there. We're in a little, there's 2 desks in there, chairs, and started working and, being the executive assistant. But I was really having a hard time sitting still that long. Like I had this urge to get out. And while I was there, saw some prop styling happening, saw some things going on creatively, was really interested in that. And then from there, I got hired at a mega church in Birmingham. So I was hired as a creative arts coordinator. So while I was doing that, I was really more exposed to the video world, the photo world. And it was right when, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Smitten Kitchen and Pioneer Woman, and those food blogs were sort of up and coming. And I would read them voraciously. I was glued to it. I was waiting for the post to come out. So I decided to start my own little tiny blog, lovecooks.com, don't look at it, and started kind of shooting food and sharing recipes from my childhood. And then while I was doing that, got promoted to art director. So that's really when I got to sink my teeth into the look and feel of things and, moods I wanted to create, the branding of the church. And also at that time, met my now husband, Jake. Amazing.
Shout out.
And shout out, Jake. Love you, babe. You're in the back of the room. And he introduced me to his friend. It's such a cool story, Stephen DeVries, who's a food photographer in Birmingham. And he was like, hey, let's get you on a production schedule. Let's shoot with Steven. I just thought he was flirting with me. I really didn't think it was legit, but it turns out he is. And so we did a shoot. I did shoot with Steven, and he kind of took me aside. And he's like, hey, did you know, this is a thing? And I said, I'm sorry, what? Blogging's a thing? He's like, yeah, we know that's a thing. But style, you can do this for a living. You can make food look good for a living. And that was the ticket. It was this light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, that's it. I want to do that. So he connected me to a food stylist in town, Anna Kelly, who's absolutely incredible. And at the time, Southern Living, Cooking Light, Food and Wine, all those brands were in Birmingham. So it was such a natural, little ticket for me to get into those kitchens and to work with Anna. And I apprenticed with her for 2 years. She kicked my booty. I mean, she's very, very good. And so it was fast, learned how to style fast. I set dish towels on fire. She put it out with a fire extinguisher. I would take the trash can out in high heels. She would say, put on some sneakers. So she really taught me how to be sort of on set and how to style. And then, it took about 2 years. And I was like, I think I can do this on my own now because I just kind of learned it. And it's that phrase, I think anytime we take on a new creative endeavor, it's when you're going through hell, just keep going. And it was sort of hellish in the beginning, but then it became this sort of natural, I just discovered this gift. And so, yeah, here we are 12 years later.
I mean, that's incredible.
Isn't that wild?
I mean, it is. And what I've loved, even just from getting to know you and working with you, is how much your team is growing, how much their skills are growing.
Yeah.
So how do you, because I would say food styling in the past like 3 years has grown so much more. Like, it's less of a explanation when it comes to, if you're on the call with the client, it's like, I need this on set.
Sure.
It's a little bit more understood.
Sure.
So how would, your experience of how you started was a pivotal time for the industry in general.
Yes.
How would you, get someone to start tomorrow? Like, I'm interested, where do you start?
Great. Yeah. I would say every journey is unique, obviously. Every path to food styling is unique. So I would say just start where you are. I think, obviously there's a lot of negatives about social media, but there's such a positive to it of like, you can just start creating today. I mean, if you have a phone and you have an account, you can start shooting food today. So I would just say jump in right where you are, but also like I think the biggest blessings of food styling is you learn to really look outward and go like, who else is interested in this? Who else may want to do this with me? How can I actually help this other person get involved in the food world as well? And doing things collaboratively. Like I remember when I first started out, I would reach out to other bloggers and say, hey, like, do you want to do this together? Do you want to create this together? Like, how can you not only start your own thing, right? Start doing what you're passionate about, start creating today, but also where are the people around you that are doing the similar thing? And how can you help them succeed and how can they help you? Because I think that really opened up a lot of doors to me too, just being like more collaborative and less like, I'm independent, I'm doing this thing. It's like, where are the people around me I can do it with, I think.
And how often have you like met someone from, art department? Because I've seen a lot where all of a sudden there's an art department on set, and let's say we have prop food, but then all of a sudden that prop food, the director's like, oh, I want the actor to engage with it.
Sure.
How often have you heard of art department calls say, what do I do? How do I do this? Like, do people ever jump from art department and get into food styling? Is that like a natural changeover? Like, how do you see that?
Okay, so this is my hot take. Like, so people that are set decorators, people that are prop stylists, like to me, in my opinion, that's their world. They're not food world people. Like it's a totally different ask to ask someone to bring in like a pizza box than to ask someone to be able to open that pizza box, take a hot looking fresh pizza out and have a cheese pull on it. Those are like two totally separate things. And I think that, we have to keep those worlds separate because I think like teamwork makes the dream work, right? So let me help you and let you help me by letting me come in and do it because I remember one set I was on, it was with Callie Ballerini, who's a country artist who I absolutely adore. She's so precious. And I get on set and they're like, originally they had wanted Art to do the pizza. They were like, we just need a prop stylist to bring in some pizza boxes. But what they realized was like, this is terrible. This looks terrible. So they brought me in and they were like, what we want you to do is we want her to take a piece of pizza out of this pizza box and we want the cheese pull, we want this dramatic moment. Like for Art to be able to create that, like how would they even know where to begin?
No.
And they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't.
And especially because, and I know, whoever has worked with artists know this, like they were telling me a time where she was going to come out of the dressing room and she would definitely not come out of the dressing room at that time. It's like, she'll be out at 9:30, 10 o'clock rolls around, where's Kelsey, And so keeping the pizza looking fresh, figuring out how to do that, figuring out how to make a cheese pull out of nowhere, like that is a definite specific skill set that like Art should not be expected to know. Like that's
completely
wild.
Agree.
Yeah, it's wild.
Okay, so I know we're gonna get more into how you do approach. What have you learned in certain jobs? Do you want to like start going through like your slides and kind of maybe speaking to?
Yeah,
sweet.
Let's do it. Yeah. Okay, so hiring a food. Oh, that's how it works. Good. Yes. They showed me this yesterday and I promptly forgot. So I have two young boys. Can you tell? Okay, so the beautiful thing about I feel like any stylist, food stylist career is we get to work in many different areas, right? So there's editorial work, there's commercial work, there's video work, there's cinema work. There's all different ways that we have this opportunity to make food look beautiful. And we'll get into why that's so important, I think, in a minute. But, editorially, I've been given the amazing opportunity to work at Southern Living, Food and Wine, Bon Appetit. And editorials, that's like still photos. So they're capturing this brief moment in time. That is some of my commercial work. So that's Lodge Cast Iron, who I absolutely adore. Shooting paella is not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that much. Get those clams open. Getting to work obviously with Gear 7 on some of that commercial work. We got to do this really cool spot for Caraway Cookware. And then obviously there's also the fast casual restaurants I've worked with. So we've got like your Hardee's, your CKE, which is located here in town. I've been working with them for probably about 5 years. I'll be teaching a workshop on how to build a better burger. Shout out, come join me here in a minute. So getting to work and partner with a bunch of different brands, some of my favorite like game-changing moments, I feel like for me personally, are I'm a child of the 90s. So like I love Reba McEntire, like adore her. She's the first concert I ever went to. Like threw a little teddy bear on stage. I was so excited. And I got to work with her on her cookbook. I've gotten to work with Trisha Yearwood, Tim McGraw, who that is the fittest man I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. He's like making a smoothie, then he's outside like doing push-ups against a tree. That was wild.
Against the tree.
Against the tree.
Okay.
He's
Questions?
very, very fit. Carrie Underwood. So I've gotten to work with celebrity clients. I've had the joy of working with editorial work. I also get to work with dog food, which is so fun. Mars Pet Care is located in town. So,
well, and to touch on the client list, what I think is so cool about your role specifically, and what's super important from like a producer situation is how much involvement, engagement your role directly has with clients.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I think that that's another huge thing for people that are trying to get into food styling or haven't really understood the power you hold when it comes to schedule, when it comes to why you can't make it look in this certain way at this time and you need to do it here. The client is engaging with you all the time. So production is very mindful of that, and that's a huge other skill set that production will look into when it comes to hiring you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think because of that, you're able to work with the same client list over and over and over again because they know you, they trust you, they learn you.
Sure. I think that's huge. You know, I think I have obviously huge respect for directors, huge respect for art directors, but honestly, the majority of shoots at the end of the day, they have pushed the director aside. They have pushed the art director out of the room, and I'm literally holding their hand and just like taking them through the day, you know, and I'm like, you know, patting them on the back and telling them what's possible and helping them know how long this food is going to last on set, helping them know why the product looks this way. Like, I just think there are the tangibles of food styling where it's like, I'm helping keeping the day organized. I'm going through the shot list. I've memorized the build. So if Hardee's was to say, hey, which build is this? I know how it goes. You know what I mean? I know how long food's going to last on set. I can tell you how light's going to affect it. Those are all like external things that, you know, a food stylist offers. But there's also the intangible of this client management role.
Yep.
Like it has become, you know, part of my job to be the hand holder, to be the expectations giver, to be the second, you know, opinion of the food, you know.
Well, and one thing that I absolutely adore with working with you specifically is how much you will push in the best way production when prep. It's like, arm me with this information. I need to know what the shots that they're expecting because it's going to dictate my entire day of prep. It's going to dictate my budget. It's going to dictate my team. Right. And it's the best type of pressure on production because then it makes the day flawless. So I think that that's another key role that like I honestly would look for. The more I think a food stylist is relaxed, they're just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just like, wait a second. Right. We should be thinking through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm trying to go to my slide and am I pressing the right button about that? Yes. Okay, sweet.
We love that.
There is a stylist called Why Hire a Food Stylist? A slide called that. There we go. What is a food stylist? And I think that brings me to like, okay, so I'm a hand holder. I'm doing these organizational things. What actually is a food stylist? So at the core, I really believe a food stylist is, now this is Callie language, so a wonderful human who highlights the power of food. Yes. Because I think food is so powerful, you guys. I mean, think about the power it has to evoke memories, the power it has to make you feel a certain way, the power it has to take you somewhere. I mean, our church had a potluck recently, and we were just sitting around at a table, and I'm just chatting, and I look up, and there's a member of our church. He's probably 6'5", huge man, burly man. He runs a landscaping business, and he's tears just streaming down his face. And I look at him. I'm like, are you all right? You know, like, are you having a stroke? What do we need to do? And he turns to Miss Tammy sitting right there, and he's like, your buttermilk pie. Oh, like it reminded me of my mama. No. And it was just this beautiful moment of like, wow, like what a privilege, you know, like food is powerful. And so my job is to like convey that. Like I want to highlight that to people and to consumers, and I want to woo them in with something that is unlike anything else. Yeah. And its ability to create those emotions.
No, it's amazing.
Right? So yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's another thing that you would say that would be the most surprising when it comes to being ready on the day as a food stylist?
That's a good question. Okay, this is something I learned early on. Like, we are all creative in this room. We understand the creative process. We understand how fulfilling like it can be. But I really believe that at the end of the day, my goal is actually not to be creatively fulfilled on a shoot. My goal is to please the client. Because this is not, like, food styling is not my ultimate creative fulfillment. My fulfillment comes from knowing that the client is happy with what we put out there and that they feel like the message they wanted to create is in the universe. And I think that's one of the most surprising things about styling. Is just, I just, that's the perspective I have. Like, this is not actually about me. This is about me creating for you what you want.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I like it.
And, but also, like, on the other side of it, like, food styling is very demanding physically.
Yeah.
It is like
I've only seen you.
Literally, I was prepping like yesterday for another shoot, and Jake was like, you've just been running around. Like, you're just running around. I'm like, I know. I'm doing stuff, okay? I'm doing stuff. I mean, it's physical work.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've really had to learn, like, okay, I'm on my feet for 10 hours. Like, I'm picking things up. I'm like sweating, you know, like in places I shouldn't be sweating because this is intense, you know? So I have to also prepare physically. Like, I've started like weight training. I mean, there are things I've had to put in place now that I didn't at the beginning of my career. And I would say, like, that's also a way I've had to prepare is like physical, honestly, like training for it.
And okay, so let's flash back forward. You're starting out, but not beginning. You're starting to feel good. You're on set.
Yeah.
What was something that you got humbly checked?
Oh, girl.
Give us
That's
an example.
Such a kind way to say, like, humbly checked.
We're friends.
Man, yeah, I know. We talk like this all the time. I've done so many things wrong. It's like hard to even highlight the best example of what's happened that's wrong. You know, I think that when I was first styling, like, I didn't quite know the value of like the details, which I think I know that now, and we are creative, we are detail oriented, but like, I would build mini a berg and I would bring it on set and they would be like, that's the final.
And you're like, oh.
I was like, no, it's the stand-in. Don't worry. Got it. There was a time where I will never forget this. It was my first big shoot with Hardee's. I was making a burrito, and I see right there. That's years in the making. I don't know if y'all are familiar with how to food style a burrito, but you essentially like take a tortilla and you stuff it with maza or like instant mashed potatoes to build the shape, and then you glue the flap down. And then you bring it on, and then you stuff the stuff in there and you bring it on set.
Wow.
And I had asked the photographer probably 12 times, which side should the flap be on? Like, is it right or is it left?
Yes.
You know? And so inevitably, I've worked so hard on this thing, y'all know where this is going, and I bring it on set. He's like, the flap is on the wrong side. And just moments like that, where you're like, I know you told me 1,000 times where it should be, and it's wrong. And I have to redo it once again, and now we're, off schedule. So there have been many a moment like that where like the detail thing is the thing that I miss, and it just really goes awry, because that's not something you can really Photoshop. Like, you got to fix it.
Yeah, you got to stop,
you got to
pause,
start
and
again.
fix.
Yes. Good word. Stop, pause, fix. Good.
Okay, well then what's one of those times where you've thought through your kit, right? You have all the safety measures. What is the most random saving grace moment you've had where you're like, this will work and I have no time to do it?
Oh man, what a good question. I've got to go with the heat gun. Like that is a beast of a tool. Like, I love that thing. I actually just recently had when I say heat gun, it's those guns that you like not actual guns. What am I doing? It uses like to strip wallpaper off walls. Like, it's got the hot end of it. And I recently had to buy a new one because my other one broke, and I was like devastated. I was on Amazon just going like, is this right? Because it, like, in a flash will create a cheese bowl. In a flash, it will melt cheese on a burger. In a flash, it will heat something up. It will toast something. It can do so many things. So to be without that, like, how many gaffers have I been like, do you have an extra extension cord? Because like,
I need my gun.
And by the way, this is a lot of wattage, so I may break down the building. But
it's needed, and I need to see it.
So please, can you get that for me? Yeah,
I love it. Let's see if this is working.
Oh yeah, is it working now? There we go. Well, hiring a food stylist is no brainer. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yep.
about the details. When things go horribly wrong. Yeah, that's some of those. That's another thing. One time I was doing a dog food shoot.
Okay.
And I thought they wanted the eggs a certain way, and they wanted them soft, like runny eggs. Okay. And I only had hard boiled. So I had to go to the community kitchen with the microwave. Okay. And I was there for probably an hour and a half, just like microwaving eggs and trying to create like a soft boil. It was terrible. And meanwhile, there's someone standing in line to use the microwave, that's just heating up their pizza. And they're like, who are you?
This is more important.
Get out of here. I'm like, it's important. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
What is this? The bagel bites.
The bagel bites. That was such a weird one. Do y'all ever have shoots or creative projects and you're like, that was just odd. That was just
from the start to the finish. Yeah. Yes.
So this was so Bagel Bites was doing this spiel on I want actually to create the ugliest bagels, because they were wanting to highlight the bagels in the back of Bagel Bites that have 1 cube of pepperoni on them and they look terrible. But everything in me is geared towards making it look amazing.
Oh yeah.
So I was literally crying, just taking stuff off of them to make them look bad. And they were constantly this isn't ugly enough. Make it worse. Make it worse. Make it worse.
It's an interesting day on set.
It was weird. Make it worse. I ended up, I think, trying to make a smiley face on one, and they like that. So
that's happy medium.
It's happy medium. I was like, at least it's smiling. It's okay.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gosh. But I think too, I kind of feel what you guys are looking for in a stylist is what I'm also looking for in a producer.
Yep.
Would you feel that?
No, absolutely. That's why working with you in general has been a no-brainer. But even with any food stylist, it is such a, I almost on the call sheet feel a food stylist should be under production, because it is so much a part of that shoot. It is so much dictating. I could go on a tech scout without the food stylist. My DP, gaffer, all of them, first AD will come up with a lovely schedule based on lighting and reflipping sets. Well, it's basically we need to undo all of it if the food stylist isn't on the scout as well. Because it dictates so much, and it's it only helps everyone stay on the same page. And when it comes to client notes, with food shoots in general, you want them to have the ability to make as many notes as possible, just like it would be on a normal shoot. This is their shoot just as much as it is everyone on set. But it's also knowing where we can push notes, where this is conflicted, and having you be a part of those conversations at the kickoff of a creative call or this day on set. It just helps everyone on set, whether they're crew or client side, go, okay, we're buttoned up.
Yeah.
We're ready for pivots.
Yeah.
We have time slots.
Sure.
Everyone's on the same page.
Sure.
And I would say, I don't want to speak for you, but I think from a food stylist point of view, the less information you're given on the front side, you can only be so prepared.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's down to a 30-second timing thing. And I'm like, well, where is it? And you're like, well, you didn't ask me for it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I think I'm also looking for a client that is organized and that can plan ahead, because as with, food, so timing specific. So when I'm on set, I'm organizing the day. I know what food's going to last the longest. I know what should probably be shot first. I know what should be shot last. I know how this is going to reflect light. What is the lighting doing? Are we outside? Are we inside? What is humidity going to do to a hot dog? Because let me tell you, it does some stuff. Okay. It does some things. There's just so many details to the timing of when things come on set to make the food look its best, to make it be the most powerful thing to sell to your consumer, right? So I have a deep knowledge of that. And I'm looking for someone who's thought about that ahead of time, and also who respects that about food, because I'm at my most challenged when I'm working with someone that doesn't deeply respect food, with someone who isn't oh, wow, I realize how important this is that this gets on set on time. I realize how big a deal it is that we have a 15-minute window for you here. Yep. And a good food stylist will advocate for that. They will tell a producer ahead of time, hey, I know you put this shot here, but actually I think it would be better at the end of the day. I've had clients that are like, okay, great, we're going to start with the Thanksgiving feast first thing 8:30,
You're like, how about no?
What if we start with the cocktail, because my team will be here at 4 a.m. like a bakery making things if we do that, and so and that's another consideration too, is one thing I love about you, Shea, I love about Gear 7 is y'all also take into context like the energy required for things and how heavy of a lift is this, and like allowing time for that, because most shoots I feel like cannot happen without a prep day, and that's something I actually haven't mentioned yet is we need advance time on that prep day to plan to make the shoot as flawless as we can. And a good producer will budget that for you.
And I was just, it's down to, it's so easy for everyone to understand why camera prep needs a day. You have to prep the camera. We don't want to do that on the day. We don't want to just start rolling with an unprepped camera. But it's the same thing when a whole shoot is involving food. It's a production company always needs to be understanding of like, if I want to be able to ask you to do things that might be able to pivot,
yes,
you have to have that runway of prep.
Yes.
Or it's like, I'm putting you in a box and I'm asking you to get out of it blindfolded.
Right. Yeah. Which I would do for y'all. Okay. I would do it. I would
appreciate it.
Yes. That's just, I think too, another thing I love about Gear 7 and I love about good producers is that communication too. Like at the end of the day, we're communicating all day. Yep. We understand each other and it's just a good hang. Yeah. Like honestly, like I love spending time with Shea. I love, a good producer. Like we laugh, we have fun. Yeah. It's like not all serious business. It's just a good time. Yep. So yeah.
As long as the prep's done, then we can do that.
That's right. We can do that. Absolutely. Yes. Well made. Keeping the future in mind.
Yes.
Let's talk. This is a big thing.
Yeah. This is like, whew, unpack it.
This was, unpack it. With a biscuit in the rear view. Okay. So, I think one of the biggest things I have learned honestly, the move that I made career-wise that took me from smaller clients to bigger clients was this thought of like, bless your future self. So I started to think, and honestly, my husband, Jake, helped me tremendously with this because he's a great problem solver. He's a great like visionary planner. Is like, okay, Cal, like, where's your team at? Like, where, how are you getting ready for this? I'll never forget. I was on a Logan's commercial and I was assisting my friend Bree. This was many years ago. And I took her aside. I was like, hey, Bree, like, because it's a Nashville client. She lives in Atlanta. I said, do you think I could do this? Like, to have this big client? You think I'm ready for this? And she said, no. And I was like, what? And I was like, why? And I'm about to, cry. And she said, you don't have the team for it. And she says, nothing you can do it, but you don't have the team for it. And that was obviously very humbling moment. Yes. But it was a light bulb moment of like, oh, okay, so building bigger, getting bigger clients, having bigger accounts isn't about like my skill level. It's about my ability to plan, to build a team and to execute with the team. Like so much of food styling is detail oriented, obviously. It's what we talked about, but it's leadership.
I mean, you're department head at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Like you are a complete department head.
Right.
That's also half in production. And I think that's been the best on all the different shoots that we've done together. Yeah. Caraway or like any of the ones that we've done I never have to stress about anyone that's going to be a support of you. You're like, I got my team. Yeah. Shout out Delaney. Yeah, Delaney's amazing. Where would I be without her? Where would I be without Delaney and Lacey and Victoria and just everyone? Yeah. No, it's amazing. Yeah. It's awesome. You built your team. You did it. It's such a gift. And I just think like that is just always keep your what do you call it? Like, I always laugh. I have like mom radar. Like I can see where things need to be put away, like things that need to be done. But it's like, keep your like radar, your team building radar on at all times. Like who do you encounter? Who are you drawn to? Like, who do you feel like would be a good fit for you? And honestly, budget's really not a part of it. Cause I used to get pushed back to Jake when he would challenge me with team building stuff as well. Like I don't have the budget, like I can't afford to cut my rate. And he's like, hey, Cal, like there's colleges, like, there's students that will do this with you. Like there are always people out there that want to do what you're doing that you can bless your future self with and build that. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I like it. You got a good team. Oh, so gifted. I'm so blessed. So guessed. Okay. Shazam. Final slide. Boom. I love it. Shazam. So now we are entering questions. Yeah. If you guys have any questions or virtual, let us know. We'll be happy to answer. Question. Oh, great. Perfect. We can start there. Yeah, let's do it. What is your creative process for coming up with a concept for styling food for different types of projects, whether it be commercial or editorial? Oh, what a great question. Okay. Yeah. You want me to take it? Take it. This is your I'm like, your is it me or Shea? Okay, it's me. Shea disappeared. Yeah, and she's under the desk. So, okay.
I think we'd start here with the creative deck. So most clients that I'm working with have a creative deck. They have a brand guideline. They have, particular things that they want to highlight about their product or about their, what we're working on. So I'll give you an example. Tomorrow I'm shooting with La Brea, who's a bakery bread company, and the direction is like fall appetizers and something called a grazing table. Have you ever heard of that?
Like you just eat everything?
You just eat
like smorgasbord table.
Thankfully, I'm not building an edible table. Yeah. That would be a different thing. Art would be involved with that. Yes. It's like, have y'all ever seen at parties? There's like, it's like kind of like a charcuterie board on steroids. It's like a lot of things.
I'd be a fan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Huge fan. All the cheese you can dream of. And so that was kind of what I was prepping for yesterday. So I take the creative deck. I know that's what I'm building. And then I just start to I don't know if this is the right word, daydream, but I start to think about what about this would make me happy? Like, what would I be happy to see? And then I always practice this rule that I've kind of made called the 3-word rule. So I'm thinking, what is it about this food item that makes it appealing? So for example, if we're thinking about a burger, it's like, okay, when I think of a burger, what are words I use to describe that? Okay, juicy, fresh, grilled, melty, whatever those words are. And I try and take that into my creative process. So with a grazing table, what am I thinking? What would make that appealing? Okay, like maybe some brie, like melty brie. And then I'm thinking about fresh. So I'm thinking about like grapes, like cold grapes, melty brie. And then we have some sort of like roasty element maybe. So roasted vegetables with some sort of dip. I'm creating these like happy food, like what's a happy food memory in my head, and then how can I make that happy for someone else, and that's what's gonna sell the thing. You know what I'm saying? And that
great
goes
answer
everywhere. Oh, thank you.
It's like tangible answer.
Yeah, girl. And you can use that anywhere, like not just editorial, commercial, video, wherever. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yes. Good question.
Whew. I can give my
yeah
point.
You go first. Okay. I'll let you take that one first.
I think it again comes down to prep. I'm a huge believer that if our food stylist team has not had their hands on the food, because sometimes, sorry, I'm answering it like 12 different in my brain.
That's great.
Is sometimes like the client will be like, you actually have to use our ingredients, right? So there is no changing it. Well, that's where a prep day is everything, because that allows me to be able to go to the client in advance and say, hey, I know you wanted us to use this bread, but the bread's not working. And it allows us time to do that. So and my short answer is a lot of those, there'll still always be like nuanced changes, but all the big fires should happen way before we walk on set.
And that's something I was going to say, is that's why prep is so key, because like I can show them what this hot dog actually looks like from what they ship me, and like, the day ahead they can be like, oh, that looks like garbage, let's get a different one, So I think prep is huge on that. But I also think like, oh gosh, I think this is just being raised in the South by a very Southern mama who's like very like, she can say things that like are like kind of terrible, but she says them with the best attitude and kindness. So I think I grew up watching her like sort of learn how to do that. So just realizing like this is a human like that we're talking to, like at the end of the day, I always want people to feel seen and heard and loved. So just in the most loving way possible, telling them the truth. Because you can't, this thing about food, you can't like deny what it looks like. Like this is it. Like there's no other, this is what it is.
Everyone
so like
put on their 3D glasses.
Yeah, you can't like Google image it to something else. Like this is what it is.
This is it.
So, and I'll always like to preface, like, I don't ever want to bring something on set that I don't feel looks beautiful. And so if that's something I'm in my gut feeling, I will talk to them about that, because at the end of the day, yes, it is about pleasing them. This is about their brand looking great, but also like there's some things that really are worth a discussion.
And I think also like, let's say it's not really the food, but there's something that they're noticing. That's where it also will dictate the food stylist to work with other departments. It's like, well, is it the countertop table coloring weird on the toppings? Is it the lighting coming from the right versus the left? Like there's moments where, because sometimes clients will not understand what they don't like. They'll just be like, I just don't like this. And so that's where it's like, okay, is there anything you can do when it comes to the food? And you're like, this is it. And I'm like, okay, great. great. Then let's talk to lighting, let's talk to art and see what else can be done. It's really, I would just say, communication and prep, short answer.
And a good food stylist knows this as well. Like, I've been on several sets where they're like, the burger looks dark. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like looking around for the lighting. I'm like, well, the shadow you're seeing in that burger is actually lighting, right? Yep. So let's like look at lighting, and you're just a good stylist will be knowledgeable about the way a surface affects the color of something, the way a background affects, like all those things that Shea talked about. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Love that. Oh man, what a good question. I am like so not cool or trendy or know any of the things, but I think beauty is timeless. It is what it is. We know in our hearts and minds, is this beautiful or is it not, right? So that's always my guiding north is this beautiful and does it make me feel something? And because I think there are some trends that I see that I absolutely will not be a part of. And then there are some trends that I see that are like very cool. So I kind of put guardrails around trends for me. Like I said, beauty is always the guiding point. So if I see something and I don't feel like it's beautiful, it's out. You know, if I see something and I do feel it's beautiful, it's in. Jake laughs at me because he's like, you're such a kind person until you look at a magazine, like a food magazine. You're like just upset. You're just in a bad mood just looking at things because they're trendy, you know, but they don't they don't feel beautiful to me. So,
well, and I think just from working with you and seeing your work, something that will always, to your point, be timeless is how much human you just put in your work. It's your motivation as to like why I'm going to make it look this way is based on humanistic feelings and like wanting to instill that. So that's always trendy in my opinion, to make it genuinely tangible and human. Like, I don't know. That's something that I've always noticed where it's less about pizzazz, extra fireworks. It's give me the substance and it looks beautiful.
Come on. Because I always, that's my, it's like, do I want to take a bite of that? Then it wins. You know, like that's it.
Like, am I hungry?
Does this make me hungry? Like the best compliment somebody can give me on set is like, oh, I'm hungry now.
And you're like, well, don't eat this.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was on set 2 days ago and someone did eat it, which was the first time it's ever happened in my career. But yeah, like, do you want to eat it? Great. You know, we've done our job for sure. Micah. Okay, say that one more time. What departments do you find yourself collaborating with to assist the final look? To assist the final look. Do you want to take that? Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I would say from my end, it would be honestly all of them. It starts to turn into it all because as soon as we adjust lighting, then where was our camera setup? Then if we're moving setups, then I need to have art pre-dress it before we ever fly in food. So I think that's what honestly, like all shoots, it always comes down to a certain point of communication. But I think with food shoots especially, it is a constant flow of communication with all departments.
Agreed with that. And I think in particular, you know, I have over time have set decorators and prop stylists that I love and that I always recommend. Like I always try to make a proactive point about like, if I have a new client coming in, like, do you have a prop stylist? Because I've worked with some good ones and I've worked with some ones that weren't good. So, and because there's such an interplay between those two worlds, art and food, obviously. And so like, if I can precursor on the front end go, do you have a production company? Because I have Gear 7, I'm going to recommend. Like, that's kind of one of my formatting email responses I have is like, great to meet you. So excited you're interested. Who's your photographer? Who's your production company? Who's your videographer? Like, who's your prop stylist? Because I know at the end of the day, those affect me, you know, and just like, you know, I affect them. And I honestly want to keep working, right? So I want to keep pushing work to other people because they matter to me. They're friends of mine, but also I want to be able to do this job again. So yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Is that all the questions?
Those are questions.
All right. Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to Directors and Donuts.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
This was such a fun thing.
I'm like, yeah, it's like we're just hanging out like we always do.
I know. I'm like, what else do you want to talk about?
Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you.
Boom.
Thank you.